Neanderthals were absolute freaks of nature. Ever wondered what it's like to live life on hard mode? Well, let me introduce you to Neanderthals, our ancient sister species who didn't just survive. They thrived in some of the harshest conditions our planet has ever seen. If humans are the Swiss Army knives of evolution, Neanderthals were the battle axes, strong, enduring, and a little terrifying. By the end of this video, you'll see why Neanderthals weren't just your average cavemen. They were absolute freaks of nature. Let's dive in. Neanderthals were our closest cousins on the evolutionary family tree, or as some might say, the sibling your parents compare you to when you disappoint them. Imagine humans, but stockier, stronger, and built for survival in Ice Age Europe. They roamed vast areas from Europe to Western Asia for over 300,000 years before mysteriously vanishing around 40,000 years ago, like the original ghosting. But don't think of them as bumbling brutes, because turns out they were far more extraordinary and smarter than outdated stereotypes suggest. If we're going to discuss what made them so unique, we need to start with one obvious question. Why did they look like walking refrigerators? Neanderthals weren't towering giants, but their body proportions made them absolute units. They averaged about 5'5" for males and a bit shorter for females, but what set them apart wasn't their height, it was their insane BMI. Neanderthals essentially looked like every Marvel superhero on their cheat day. With thick limbs and ridiculously broad torsos, they carried enough muscle to intimidate not just us, but probably anything else alive at the time. Imagine a linebacker deciding to quit football to wrestle mammoths instead. That was their vibe. But those thick curves weren't just for show. Neanderthals were built like tanks, thanks to their remarkably dense and robust skeletons. Their bones were 3 times as thick as ours, like nature decided it was safer to let them live life with built-in armor. This incredible adaptability let them take on ridiculous physical challenges. Drop a Neanderthal in a modern-day gym, and they'd likely break the equipment. Dense bones also meant higher durability for everyday life, which, by the way, often involved dodging giant Ice Age carnivores. If the average human skeleton is a Ticonderoga pencil, Neanderthal bones were more like steel beams. Neanderthals weren't just surviving on nuts and berries. They were top-tier, apex predators of prehistoric Europe. Armed with stone-tipped spears and massive biceps, they hunted huge game like woolly rhinoceroses, deer, and mammoths. Think about that for a second. These weren't just large animals. They were needs-a-whole parking lot levels of big. And it wasn't like they had long-range sniper skills. Hunting back then involved stealth, crazy lung capacity, we'll get to that, and the willingness to risk, death. Neanderthals regularly got up close and personal with their prey. It's practically a miracle they didn't all end up as saber-toothed tiger snacks. Or did they? If modern humans tried to compete with Neanderthals in a strength contest, we wouldn't just lose. We'd end up on their dinner table. Their bones show evidence of muscle attachments that suggest the strength of at least 1.5 typical humans. Imagine someone casually pulling a car or fighting a bear. It's that level of superhuman. But unlike the gym bros who post about leg day, Neanderthals turned raw strength into a survival tool. Carrying heavy game or trekking across sub-zero terrain with dead mammoths on their shoulders. All in a day's work. Neanderthals weren't just strong, they were unbreakable, or close to it. Fossil evidence reveals injuries that would put most of us in permanent retirement, like fractured skulls, shattered ribs, or dislocated joints. And they just kind of walked it off? Some researchers say over 70% of Neanderthals survived catastrophic injuries, like full-on head trauma, shattered bones, and lion attacks. It was like they had Wolverine's healing powers, but instead of adamantium skeletons, they brought sheer toughness to the fight. Could you imagine limping away from a mammoth stampede and showing up for work the next day? Yeah, me neither. Here's a jaw-dropping stat. An estimated 74% of Neanderthals endured massive physical trauma and lived to tell the tale, metaphorically, of course. These injuries likely came from hunting accidents, animal attacks, or the occasional, oops, Fred hit me with a rock. What makes this survival rate so bonkers is the lack of advanced medicine. Their healthcare system probably involved some comforting grunts, a few chunks of hide as bandages, and blind luck. And yet, their survival was nothing short of an evolutionary flex. Fun fact, Neanderthals had gigantic lungs, perfect for surviving the thin, chilly air of Ice Age climates. Studying their rib cages reveals that their lung capacity was apparently double that of modern humans. Essentially, these guys could inhale an entire afternoon breeze before you could catch your breath in yoga class. Big lungs weren't just nice to have, they were essential for hunting large animals, running, and surviving extreme cold. These folks were prehistoric air hogs, and that helped make them endurance legends. With lungs that big and bodies that brawny, you'd better believe Neanderthals burned through calories like crazy. It's estimated that they needed anywhere between 3,600 to 5,000 calories per day. For context, that's roughly how much Michael Phelps eats during Olympic training, but every single day of their lives. Imagine chowing down on mouthfuls of mammoth steak just so you're fueled enough to chase another mammoth tomorrow. A Neanderthal would take one look at your avocado toast and promptly faint from starvation. Even though they were built like brick walls, Neanderthals weren't slow. Studies of their robust muscle structure suggest they had explosive speed similar to Olympic sprinters. Hunting enormous beasts like bison or avoiding predators like giant hyenas required agility on top of brute force. Need someone to retrieve your frisbee after a bad throw? Neanderthals would have you covered, with time to spare for a snack break halfway back. Their superiority in speed and strength partly came down to the types of muscle fibers they had. Neanderthal muscles were likely composed of fast twitch fibers for power and slow twitch fibers for endurance. In simpler terms, they could deadlift a boulder and then run a marathon, or do both simultaneously. Compared to us, they were built less for multitasking and more for raw efficiency. Farming, desk jobs, or competitive TikTok scrolling? Not their jam. But when it came to survival, they were absolute beasts. Here's a fun twist. Neanderthals had brains bigger than ours. Their brains averaged 1,500 cubic centimeters compared to our 1,300. Yep, the person you think of as so smart would have felt pretty average next to these Ice Age cousins. But don't feel too bad. Bigger doesn't always mean smarter. Their brains were specialized for survival, not abstract thought, meaning they probably weren't worrying about stocks, but they were crushing it in mammoth chase strategies. Where we use our big brains for art, philosophy, and inventing pizza delivery apps, Neanderthals prioritized sections related to movement, coordination, and survival instincts. Think of them as athletes and hunters, hyper-optimized for life on the edge. Neanderthals were less about small talk and more about throwing a spear really, really well. And hey, isn't that its own form of genius? If you thought their skeletons were impressive, wait until we talk about their jaws. Neanderthals had massive, powerful jaws and thick teeth, ideal for crunching through tough, unprocessed food. You eat a granola bar because it's convenient. They ate rocks. Okay, not literally, because they could. This exaggerated jaw development probably helped them survive on a chew first, ask later kind of diet. Also, good luck trying to beat a Neanderthal in a chewing contest. Your dentist wouldn't approve. Here's a weird one. Neanderthals had freakishly strong thumbs. Fossil evidence shows they could grip with incredible precision and force, almost like having a third hand. What does that mean for us? Good luck beating them in arm wrestling or opening stubborn pickle jars. Their power grip made them natural toolmakers and hunters, turning the simple act of holding a stick into a prehistoric superpower. Believe it or not, you probably have a little Neanderthal in you. Most people of non-African descent carry around 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA, which likely influences traits like cold resistance, robust immune systems, and possibly even allergies. So, next time your nose runs, thank your prehistoric ancestors for making you susceptible to weird seasonal flare-ups and giving you a shot at surviving tough winters. Neanderthals weren't just some scruffy cave dwellers struggling to get by. They were evolutionary anomalies, hyper-durable, freakishly strong, calorie-burning machines capable of hunting giant beasts and walking away from life-threatening injuries. They're a reminder of just how awe-inspiring the human lineage is, even if we don't share all their traits today. So, what's the takeaway? The next time you're struggling with a modern problem like low Wi-Fi or heavy grocery bags, remember the Neanderthals weathered glaciers, hunted mammoths, and outperformed Olympic athletes, all without so much as a smartphone. Truly, they were absolute freaks of nature. Now isn't that something to click like and subscribe for?